Fuck that. Fuck them all. They don't believe me, but people need to know. So remember this. Never go. I just finished school, but I couldn't get into college. Our family is too poor, and that's a common story around here. There's no money for education, and the free spots go to those with connections or gifts for the committee. So my father found me a job through friends, a guard at the old sanatorium Pobieda. Of course, it's better than sitting on my parents' necks, especially since one guard left suddenly without any explanation. No one argued when I took the job. Places in these forgotten corners aren't popular, and the pay is small but steady. The sanatorium stands on the edge, behind the forest, far from the city. The wind howls at night like wolves, and the roads are narrow and broken, as if to scare away unwanted guests. In the better times of the Soviet Union, Pobieda was a real paradise for children and teens. They brought kids sick with tuberculosis or spine problems, treated them with fresh air, procedures, walks in the pine forest. Everyone drank oxygen cocktails with bubbles that tickled the nose, played pioneer games, laughed under the sun. The walls had bright posters with pioneer heroes, and the dining room smelled of fresh bread and dried fruit compote. But not everything was as perfect as in the official reports. The sanatorium closed after a big scandal that burst out like pus from a wound. The director, Comrade Mironov, had a bad reputation. He allowed himself freedoms with the staff. In our USSR, people don't talk about that out loud. Women fear judgment, as if it's their fault. Too short skirt, she asked for it, or other nonsense whispered behind backs. Society stays silent, the party covers its own, and it goes on for years like quiet rot in a wall. But one time Mironov made a fatal mistake. That summer, Masha was staying at the sanatorium, the daughter of some high-ranking governor from the next region. She was grown up but still a child at heart, with red hair and a sharp tongue. Mironov, as always, was bothering one of the nurses in the corridor, grabbing her hand, whispering something rude. Masha saw it by chance from her room window. Maybe it was her childlike sense of justice or too much bravery, but she couldn't stay quiet. She ran outside, came up to him, and started shouting loud for everyone to hear. "It's not right to act like that at work. I'll tell my dad, and he'll put you in prison for this." The kids around froze. The staff looked away, and Mironov just smiled crookedly, but anger flashed in his eyes, deep, cold, like winter ice on a river. A week later, the sanatorium closed officially for breaking sanitary rules, as the newspaper said. But everyone knew the truth. The scandal reached the top, and Mironov was accused of many harassments. The court gave him only probation. They whisper he paid a huge bribe, a fortune collected from thanks from patients' parents. He lost his job, his reputation, everything. He started drinking, wandering the streets, mumbling to himself. People avoided him like a leper. And one foggy night, when he sat on a bench in the park near the city after another bottle of vodka, he saw her again, Masha. She was walking alone, hurrying somewhere under a big red umbrella that swayed in the rain like a bloody flag. Maybe it was a hallucination from alcohol, or maybe fate gave him a chance for revenge. Mironov remembered everything, how she ruined his life with one word. A beastly rage woke in him, dark and uncontrolled. He stood up, followed her, hiding in the tree shadows. For 2 kilometers he stalked her, through wet streets, past closed houses where no one heard her steps. And then, A hit with the bottle on the head, sharp like a shot. Masha fell unconscious. The police report later wrote horrible details. He dragged her limp body across the ground, through the forest, scratches on her skin, dirt and leaves in her hair. He pulled her back to the sanatorium, into the dark, empty corridors that still smelled of medicine and children's laughter. There, in an abandoned room, he took his revenge. They found the body 2 days later, when the smell reached nearby villages. They arrested Mironov right away. He didn't even hide, sat there in the sanatorium with empty eyes, mumbling, "She deserved it. She ruined me." They shot him quickly, as was done for such crimes in those times. No appeals, no mercy. But since then, the whispers don't stop. They say Masha's ghost still wanders the sanatorium, looking for revenge. She walks the corridors with a red umbrella that creaks like doors to hell, and her steps echo in the silence like drops of blood. Kids from nearby villages, the brave ones, started sneaking there at night on dares. They came back pale with shaking hands, but said nothing about the ghost. Just a scary atmosphere, they said, but their eyes showed horror, like they saw something unspeakable. I thought about all this as I walked the narrow path to the sanatorium for my first shift. The wind whistled in the pine tops, the sky was lead gray, and in the distance over the hills, the ruins of the building appeared, dark, silent, like a grave waiting for a new victim. My heart pounded, but I pushed those thoughts away. Just a job, I repeated to myself. But deep inside, something whispered, "Don't go there alone." I got close to the sanatorium Pobieda, and the first thing I saw was its old, cracked walls that seemed to hold together by a promise. Weeds pushed through the concrete cracks like fingers from under the ground. Moss covered the bottom of the facade, and broken windows hummed from the wind, as if the sanatorium breathed like a dying patient. The air smelled of wet earth and something sour, like old medicine. I stood at the entrance, holding my bag of things, when suddenly I heard a hoarse voice behind me. "Vladimir?" I turned quickly. In front of me was a gray-haired man in an old faded cap, his face cut with wrinkles like the bark of an old oak. His eyes, deep set, looked at me from under thick brows, and there was something worrying in them, like he saw more than he wanted to say. He waved his hand and I came closer unwillingly. "Yes, that's me. My father sent me," I answered, trying to sound confident. The man frowned, rubbed his forehead as if pushing away a heavy thought. His fingers shook, and I noticed his nails were yellow, like from years of smoking. I know, they told me." He mumbled, then paused as if deciding if to say more. "Listen, kid, I've worked here a long time, almost since this damn place closed. And here's what I'll tell you. Hear nothing and see nothing here. Understand? Nothing. Because if you start seeing or hearing, you'll fly out like your predecessor. Or worse." His voice was low, almost a whisper, but the words cut like cold steel. I wanted to ask what happened to the last one, but something in his look, dark, heavy, made me swallow the question. He reached into his worn shirt pocket and pulled out a bunch of keys. They jingled in his hand like bones. He handed them to me, but when I reached, he squeezed my hand and added, lowering his voice to a barely heard hiss, "And one more thing. Don't go to room number 13. Never. Don't even look that way." I was surprised but didn't dare ask. This talk was already strange, like I stepped on the thin ice and feared falling through. I took the keys silently, cold and heavy, thanked him, and the man without another word turned and walked the path into the forest. His figure disappeared among the pines and I stood watching, thinking he didn't seem crazy, more tired, like carrying a burden he didn't want to talk about. His words about not hearing and not seeing stuck in my head like a splinter. The day dragged slowly. I walked the grounds, checked locks, saw the ruined inside, peeling walls with mold, old beds with rusty springs sticking out like bones from a broken arm. The air smelled of damp and something sweet rotten that made my throat tight. When the sun set, I settled in the small guard room, a tight space with a peeling table, creaky chair, and a desk lamp that barely glowed. Hours passed, darkness thickened outside, and I let myself sleep a bit, head on my arms. As soon as I closed my eyes, the old guard's words came back. Hear nothing and see nothing here. I woke up suddenly in cold sweat. The room was dark, the lamp threw weak, shaking light, just enough to see the table outlines. I looked at the clock. It showed 1:30 at night. Time left until patrol, so I forced my eyes shut and tried to sleep again. This time sleep came fast, but uneasy. Dark corridors, floor creaks, whispers calling my name. I woke again, sharply like from a push. The darkness in the room was thick like tar. I turned to the clock, 1:30, the same. My heart raced, chills ran down my back, skin covered in cold sweat. Impossible, I thought. Time couldn't stop. I rubbed my eyes, but the hand didn't move. Suddenly, the lamp blinked and went out, plunging the room into total black. The silence grew heavy like air pressing my chest. And then I heard it. Thump, thump, thump. Steps. Slow, steady, somewhere in the corridor behind the door. Each sound echoed in my head like a hammer on a nail. I grabbed my cross necklace that my mom gave me as a kid and whispered a prayer, voice shaking. Our Father. Thump. Who art in heaven? Thump. Hallowed be thy name. Thump. The steps got faster, closer, each sound hitting my nerves like electricity. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would jump out. I squeezed the cross until it cut into my palm. Suddenly, the lamp blinked once, twice, and lit up again. I opened my eyes. Morning light came through the dirty windows. The clock showed 5:45. I breathed out, but my legs still shook. It was a dream, I told myself, though the cold in my chest stayed. Did the prayers help or just a nightmare? I didn't know and didn't want to think. Time for patrol. I dressed quickly, grabbed the keys and went to the exit. On the veranda by the front doors, on an old wooden hanger, I saw it, the red umbrella. It hung there, swaying a little, like someone just put it. I froze. It wasn't there when I came yesterday. The fabric was faded but bright red, with dark spots like rust, or worse. I stood staring, feeling my heart speed up. Maybe someone left it, I thought. But my mind spun the story of Masha, her umbrella, blood in the forest. I forced myself to look away and go outside. On the path stood my partner, the same gray-haired man. His face was stone. Eyes looked through me like I was a ghost. I handed him the keys silently. He took them without a word and walked away. I stood watching his figure fade in the morning fog, feeling cold wind whisper at my back. Don't come back here at night. I didn't sleep the next night and day, tossing in bed like in fever. In my head, the red umbrella from the sanatorium hanger kept appearing, its faded fabric, dark spots like dried blood. As soon as I closed my eyes, that dull, rhythmic thumping echoed, thump, 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 like steps following me in the dark. I tried to push these thoughts away, told myself it was nerves, imagination, but the sticky fear wouldn't leave. By 6 evening, I couldn't stay home. My legs carried me back to the sanatorium, like some invisible force pulled me. I got ready, put on my old jacket, and went, though my chest tightened with dread. As I approached the sanatorium, the sky darkened too early. Heavy gray clouds hung over the forest, swallowing the last sun rays. Wind howled in the pine tops like whispering unknown words. The sanatorium stood before me, silent and gloomy, its broken windows staring like empty eyes. I went to the doors, but this time no one waited. No partner, no heavy look. My eyes slid down to the old dried pot by the entrance. It was moved, like pushed. I bent and saw a shine in the dust. A bunch of keys. Looks like the partner forgot, I thought. Though deep inside, something whispered it wasn't his mistake. I picked up the keys. The cold metal burned my fingers and opened the doors. Inside, icy air blew in my face like the sanatorium exhaled. The smell of mold and old wood filled my lungs. I took off my coat and fur hat, hung them on the hanger by the entrance. The umbrella wasn't there. I stopped, staring at the empty hook. Maybe the partner took it. Maybe the last guard left it and he took it back. I shook off these thoughts and went to the small room that was my office. Time dragged like syrup. I sat at the table, listening to wind howl outside, trying not to think of yesterday's nightmare. The wall clock ticked, counting seconds to midnight. Time for patrol. I grabbed keys and flashlight. Its weak light barely cut the dark. First floor was like yesterday. Some mice rustling in corners, spider webs sticking to face, smell of rotten wood. Nothing unusual, but each floor creak made my heart skip. I went up to the second floor, holding the flashlight tighter than needed. Corridors here were narrower, walls cracked, some with faded children's drawings. Pioneer figures on walls looked twisted. Their drawn eyes seemed to follow me. I almost finished, just the toilet at corridor end left. And then the flashlight blinked and went out. Damn! I cursed out loud, voice shaking in silence. I shook the flashlight, hit it on my palm, like my life depended on it. Darkness pressed on me, thick and heavy, like at the bottom of a well. And then I heard the sound. Something heavy, metal fell on the floor nearby. The sound boomed in silence like a shot, and I felt blood freeze in my veins. I hit the flashlight again. It flashed. Weak light tore a piece of corridor from dark. And then I saw it. On the floor lay that same red umbrella. Its metal handle shone in the beam, fabric crumpled and faded, covered in dark spots like dried blood. Hell, not this, I mumbled, feeling my throat tighten. I came closer slowly, eyes fixed, reached out, touched the handle. It was cold as ice, unnaturally heavy, like holding something alive. My fingers shook, but I couldn't let go. Quiet, barely heard crying reached my ears, like a little girl crying far away, trying to hold back sobs. I froze. The sound was weak, but it pierced like a needle. I tried to tell myself it was wind, the old building making noises, but the crying got louder, clearer. My job, to check. Someone could have sneaked in, hooligans or homeless. I gripped the umbrella tighter and followed the sound to the toilet doors at corridor end. The sound grew, sharper, like crying from everywhere. Walls, ceiling, underfloor. My steps pounded with my heart. Each one felt like a mistake. I stopped at the toilet doors, hand with flashlight shaking. The crying became so loud it seemed to scream, tearing silence. I slowly pushed the cubicle door. The flashlight fell from my shaking hand and rolled on the floor, thumping old boards, its weak light blinking like in agony, lighting shadows dancing on walls. The umbrella stuck to my palm. Cold metal dug into skin like claws, and I couldn't drop it, no matter how hard. In my head exploded a basic instinct: fight or run. My legs moved on their own, and I ran faster than ever, through dark corridors where each step echoed like a shot. Behind me came that horrible crying, sharp and desperate, followed by a scream. "Give it back! Give back my umbrella!" The voice was childish but full of such fury that blood froze. The air in the sanatorium became thick like syrup, smelling not just mold but something metallic, like fresh blood. I raced to the front doors, heart in my throat, breath in rags. When I reached, grabbed the handle and yanked. "Locked, damn!" escaped through my teeth. I quickly pulled keys from pocket, but they slipped from fingers and fell with a clatter that sounded like thunder in silence. I bent, searching hands in dark, but no keys. They vanished, like swallowed by floor, and behind, in corridor depth, a dark shape approached. Blurry figure moving in jerks like a puppet on strings, its eyes shining in half dark like a beast's. The crying came closer, deafening, and I felt hair on my neck stand. Suddenly I saw side doors left, old, peeling, with changing room above. Without thinking, I ran in, slammed shut with a bang, and gasping pushed a heavy metal cabinet nearby to the doors. It scraped the floor like groaning, and I huddled in the room corner, back to cold wall. In my head swirled memories: childhood in tight apartment where mom sang lullabies, how I failed college exams from nerves, first love, girl from next house who laughed at my jokes, parents who always believed in me, though couldn't help. Why me? Why here, I thought, tears rolling down cheeks, mixing with sweat. Then something hit the doors, bang after bang, loud, rhythmic, like a ram. Wood cracked, cabinets shook, and each thump felt like my soul ripping out. I grabbed the cross again, squeezing until knuckles white, whispered all prayers I knew. Our Father, Hail Mary, Saint Michael, protect me. But this time no one heard. Bangs got stronger, cabinet tipped and fell with deafening crash, raising dust cloud. My heart pounded like to burst. I opened eyes expecting the horrible shape, but before me stood my partner. The gray-haired man in cap with same deep wrinkles on face. "Hey, Volodya," he said calmly, like nothing happened. "I forgot to give you keys yesterday, but looks like you got in somehow." His eyes slid over me, huddled in corner, shaking, sweat on forehead. But he didn't even look surprised, like he saw this every day. "So, how did you get in?" he continued with a hint of mockery in voice. I reached for pocket to show keys, but remembered none. The ghost took them. Keys. "No keys with me," I mumbled, shaking. "But they were here. Right here. Stop. Who are you?" The partner froze. His face twitched unnaturally, like muscles under skin lived alone. He was silent a few seconds, then laughed. Bitter, poisonous laugh like nails on board. "Ha ha ha, so you're not as dumb as you seem," he said, and his eyes flashed yellow and half dark. "I told you I work here a long time. Sure, I lied a bit, but to not let you figure me out right away. I cut him off, voice almost breaking. You, Mironov. His eye twitched again, like from pain. Don't interrupt adults, kid, he hissed, face twisting in grimace. Yes, it's me. He started pacing the room, steps slow, predatory like a wolf circling prey. This place got fame because of that little brat who cries all the time. But the real evil? It's me. His voice got lower, guttural, like from hell's depths. I've driven people mad here for years, fed on their fear, tasted every drop of horror. They came here like you, young, naive. And I broke them, whispered in ears, showed shadows coming alive. He paused, stopped before me, face twisted in anger. Cheeks shook, eyes filled with blood. But that little brat took my glory. It ruined everything with one word. Fists clenched until knuckles cracked, and nails. They grew longer into sharp claws shining in moonlight through window. I need more people, more food, more fear, he roared, and rooms shook like earthquake. I'll carve my name on your body, he whispered, coming closer, his laugh rolling again, cold and mad. And everyone will know I'm the real evil. Suddenly, the room shook harder. Walls cracked, floor vibrated under feet. From veranda end came a scream. Where is my umbrella? Voice closer, sharper, like knife-cutting air. I closed eyes and prayed last time, words mixing in chaos. Lord, save, protect. The girl ghost came near. I felt her presence, cold and angry like winter wind. She screamed again, and window panes flew out with crash. Glass rained on a floor like hail. Mironov grabbed his ears, ghostly, half see-through, and howled in pain, body twisting. The girl cried once more. Give it back! I opened eyes, looked at my hand. Umbrella still there, cold and heavy. Automatically, like not me controlling, I threw it at the ghost. The girl caught the umbrella in air, her small fingers gripped handle, and with lightning speed stabbed Mironov through. He howled, horrible, inhuman sound piercing to bones, and spun in agony, body melting like wax in fire. Black, thick liquid dripped from him to floor, spreading smell of sulfur and rot, until he melted into room like plastic figure, leaving only a steaming puddle in silence. I looked up and saw the girl with red hair falling on shoulders, face so beautiful and sad. She looked at me with warm, almost thankful eyes, and in that moment I felt warmth spread through body like sun after storm. Thank you, she whispered softly, and her figure faded in air like smoke, leaving only light smell of rain and children's laughter. After that day, I started believing in ghosts. I learned more about them, read old books, whispered with people who lived through similar, and now I can't sleep without salting windows and doors, checking every corner. I write you this letter because in our USSR, no one believes me. Here it's not accepted to talk about such. The party says it's superstition, and neighbors whisper, I'm crazy. Maybe you can share this story with the public better so people know. Evil hides in details and forgotten places, and it waits for its time.
Now that we've told you this story, you're ready for more. You're going to learn the whole truth. The end is near.
Don't cover me, babe. Your shadow's hanging over me. Breathe on me, just breathe on me. And don't cover me, babe. Don't lay yourself on top of me. I don't want us to start again. I'll get it in, I'm not your friend. Oh, oh. when everything's been said and everything's been done, I'll be down the street, all passed out on rum. 'Cause I'm trying to forget you, I'm trying to forget about you.